Get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join us this afternoon. We are going to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour actually going through the Small Business Administration loan process with our longtime partner, Carolyn Sechler. Carolyn has a long time background and history in being a CPA and helping small businesses and nonprofits in Arizona. So she's well versed in this, has gone through the process recently for submitting the applications, and is really just giving her time today to be helpful to all of you. And so what we're doing at Local First is just trying to provide as many resources and as much information as we can to you. One of the things that I'd like to start by saying before going through this webinar today is that we're also really encouraging everyone, if you haven't yet, to call your bank or reach out to a local bank or credit union and talk to them as well. Because if you are eligible for funding and a loan through any other way, then you are not eligible for an SBA emergency assistance loan. So it's a really important piece that you'll need to take before you start going through the process if you haven't already. So if you have any questions about getting connected with the local bank or credit union, we can help you do that. Just reach out to us. If you're joining right now, if you can just keep yourself on mute, and Carolyn will take it away and walk you through this. As she gets to the end, if there are questions, you are welcome throughout the webinar to drop them into the chat box. And then we will feed those questions to Carolyn at the end, just in case anything comes up. But if you could hold those till the end so she can get through her portion of the presentation, that'd be fantastic. So with that, I'm going to give it over to you, Carolyn, to take it away and do what you do best. So thank you so much.
All right. Looks like I can only temporarily unmute. Are you able to unmute me from there? Or do I need to hold it to unmute?
Melissa, can you take care of that?
For the time being, I can hold the space bar down and unmute that way. And I'm watching the chat screen too, so
great.
If I see something that integrates with what I'm speaking about, I can talk about that too.
Hey,
okay,
Carolyn,
yes.
really quick. I do have you unmuted, so it should work.
It keeps muting her.
I'm not sure why that is.
Okay, you might have to hold it, Carolyn.
It's okay. It's no big deal. I'll hold it.
Okay.
So, hi there. And as Thomas mentioned, I mostly work with nonprofits, but I'm a small business. I've been a small business, and I have plenty of issues that I've dealt with along those lines. Like he said, you first have to be rejected by a traditional commercial loan lender. And once you have determined that you're not eligible for an SBA emergency disaster loan, then you can proceed with this process. And there's a checklist, but I'll just kind of generally go over things. Let me step back for a minute. The interest rates are now 3.75% for small business, and for nonprofits it's 2.75%. And it can be paid over up to 30 years. That as of last week, they had received 11,000 applications. When I went online to do this on Friday, which is when Maricopa County opened up, it was a little slow, but I was able to get through. You're going to need to do a couple things, and one is register with the SBA on the site that's called, let me find it again.
Carolyn, we are unable to hear you as you're scrolling through the documents.
See that's there. How about now?
That's good. Perfect.
Okay, so it'll let me unmute there for some reason. Okay, so this is I'm going to start from the beginning. I just wanted to start with those instructions. So on this disaster loan assistance site is where you create your login and your password. It's very fast. You go in, and as I said, I'll put the link to that site on the chat screen when we're done with this part. You immediately get that, and you can log in and start working on an application. but you should make sure that you've got, and also make sure you save every time you do anything in here. Every screen, save, 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 save. It'll save, you can go back and you won't lose your spot, but really it's a little tad slow, but it's working. And I even noticed that when it was really slow and it didn't seem to be doing anything, I could back up, go to the last screen and proceed. So don't assume that you've lost anything. It may seem like a daunting task, but it actually isn't that bad. There's only really about a 5-page form, and most of it is stuff you know. Things don't even apply in many cases. You're going to obviously put down, let's see, you're going to select economic injury, and understand too that this isn't advice. You have to talk to your own advisor. I have to give that disclaimer as a CPA, but basically you're applying for an economic injury. Put in your legal name. And was there a question? I'm sorry.
I have myself covered.
It sounded like I was getting some voice in there, but we'll let it go. This is the name of the entity. Let me step back for a moment. This was a confusion for people I was working with. When you create your login at SBA, you're creating it under your name and your SOC. And then you're going to the business, and on the business, you're putting that information of the business's name and its EIN and address. And then you are, let's see, then things that kind of came up that were interesting. This stuff they know, the amount of loan request, that's a big deal. You can leave these blank, come back to it, do as much as you can, and then come back to it. Number of employees, who's in charge, type of business. So in my case, it was nonprofits. Management would be the same people, the person that's in management. So it's a business name, and then it's a person that's in management. And I'm not trying to do this real speedy. I'm just trying to give you a gloss over the top of this thing. Maybe to take some fear down for how you do with this. Lots of questions like on the Corp Commission about whether or not you filed bankruptcy, you have a felony, you have any issues with the IRS. If you have an outstanding obligation with the IRS, you're not eligible yet. So you'll need to clear that up. Organization type. Then you're certifying. All along you're doing certifications. These documents you're going to have to print off, then scan back in and upload. So there's places where there's signature and title. Same with this one. If you have, this is a document that says it's okay for them to collect 3 years of your tax returns and look at them. It's actually going to fill itself in when you do the first page. So all you have to do is print it off and sign it. This is the financial statement document. Not all of those lines apply to you, of course, just fill out those lines that do apply. We were reminded on some of the documents I've been reading that you're applying for a loan for your operating costs, not to replace your sales. So you really want to look at what your costs are of operating your organization. It's also stressed that you have your most current tax return either done or the most current financial reports ready, because you'll have to upload one or the other. If you can get your return drafted and uploaded, even though it's not due, that would probably be my recommendation, that that's the route you go. Although, if you're under a certain level, you don't have any, balance sheet showing, so you'll want to fill some of that in. Again, check with your tax advisor if you don't feel like you're sufficiently prepared for it. They're asking about your debt. There's going to be one page that you can just fill in that just says, here are all my debts. If you've got, say, a mortgage or a credit card. It looked like, I'll show you too, there's a glossary page that's available on the website that I found very helpful. If you read a word that you don't understand, pull the glossary and read what the word meant in their terms. I want to tell you that one. All right. And provide as much detail as you can. So on the one I was doing, they had a credit card balance and they had some payroll tax liabilities. Those were kind of outside the definition of what they said was liabilities, but I'm trying to make sure that I have everything in there and no one comes back and says, well, what about this? So I've been putting things into the notes and just adding it as commentary. You can fill this in. They don't like spaces, but it's a much more forgiving government form than most of the other government forms I do online. It's letting me do lots of information in here. They really want to know if you had any kind of insurance that covers the loss. So if you had business interruption insurance or something like that, you need to identify who your insurance company is and any kind of benefits you receive, because you can't request money. You have to, when you request your money, you have to take into account what you've already gotten from them what you will get from them. And of course, certify that they can contact your insurance company and confirm that that's the case. You'll be certifying also that they can contact your bank and confirm that that's what you've got in. This is a supplemental schedule in case you've got way too many creditors and you need to list a bunch more. And let's see if there's anything else exciting in this application. It kind of goes really fast once you start working in it, and it'll give you a checklist that tells you when you've completed sections, and it'll save it, but you can always undo and update them. Let me stop this. There's really nothing else there. There is a request for a FEMA number, but I haven't been able to find out. It says if required. So I haven't been able to find out yet if it's required. It didn't hold us up when we drafted. I requested a FEMA number just in case. I also, as an advisor to the client, was able to register and file the application for them as long as they signed the documents that were going in. So if you've got an advisor that can help you, they may be able to draft some of this for you. You're hearing me, right? Are you hearing me? Okay, good. All right. Let me go through the, Thomas, you mind if we go through the questions? Because that's really the form. There's 11,000 that have been filed so far. They're saying it's going to take, I've got two more things. They're saying it's going to take at least 30 days to process, which could be a challenge. So now they're contacting lenders, regular lenders, to see if they're willing to do bridge loans. The bridge loans can come to you and then need to be paid immediately from the SBA loan. So you'll replace it. They don't have anything in place as of today with banks, but the intention is to get a bridge loan if you can. And it's kind of silly when you can say that if you didn't qualify for a loan, how do you qualify for a bridge loan? So my guess is that they're going to make a similar situation, since it's an SBA loan, make a similar allowances they did for SBA since you didn't qualify for a bank loan. So that was the 11,000. I think that's it for the moment. So Thomas, with your permission, let's go through the questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to start from up here. The applicant name for there's a question about whether the applicant name is your personal name or your business name. The applicant who gets the SBA number appeared to be personal. That's what worked when I applied for this. And then when I got it personally and I used my own ID number, that's what gave me the number. I didn't see a way to put in the business number. When I went to do the SBA loan was when I identified the business. I believe that's because if I had more than one business, I as applicant could apply for more than one business. That's just my guess. They're still working out this stuff and trying to get us all the details. All right. The 4506, the business name is what goes in there. So the 4506 is not signed by you and spouse or something like that, depending on the kind of business it is. If it's an LLC and there's two managing members, you might have to have more than one signature. But normally it would be just signed by the president or the treasurer or the secretary of the organization. That the 4506, that's the document, the one-page IRS document that gives the SBA permission to request 3 years of your tax returns. Operating costs include normal payroll. Yes, operating costs are all the things that you do to run your business every day: rent, utilities, payroll, supplies, everything. So you look on your profit and loss report, and that's what that means. Are these personal debts, business debts? The debts they're talking to about our business debts. So once you go to do the application, you're writing, you are now the business. And as the business, what are its liabilities? Are you involved in a formal payment or plan with the IRS? Okay, so the payment plan, that's a good one. Today they announced that they are using pay.gov for the payment plans. I went on pay.gov and was able to, and I can do a screen share to show you how to see this. So let's do that really quickly. I don't know if you use pay.gov currently, but pay.gov is the site where you make official payments usually. And there is this SBA 1201 form that you fill in, which is really just, here's my bank information, borrower name, bank information, and you'll have an SBA loan number once you get your approval. And so you set your payments up here and you can do it automatically through there. There is no charge for setting up this arrangement. They haven't spoken to whether or not there'll be a charge for credit cards, but yeah, well, you can see bank account, PayPal, and debit card are what it's accepting right now. So that's how you make your payments. Back here again. All right, so that's those. All right, and I am payment we talked about, and compiling everyone's questions for the end. Thank you. Did I hear that you must have been? Yes, you need to have been denied. They're not asking me for a copy of that, but I think you'll probably want some kind of evidence, which would be a letter from the bank that says we can't loan the money to you at this time. What kind of evidence to provide? That's so the bank, yeah, the bank will usually write you a letter that says that at this time we can't loan it. Yes, you apply to the bank first. Credit cards are a debt. I don't think that that's a bank rejection. I think they really need a formal loan from the bank.
Hey, Carolyn.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just making sure everybody knows which questions you're responding to.
Okay.
Would you mind reading off the question?
I don't mind at all. I'm
Cool.
sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, so I'm on the 145 question from Troy, and it's while I'm filling out online, it has more required sections on page 3 asking for my personal info. But when I fill it out, it says there is a person already tied to my business. It's kind of confusing. I'm not sure. I guess I'd have to look at what you're looking at. I apologize. If you want to do a screen share later, I can look at it with you and see if we can figure out what it is. The next one is, my question is, what qualifies as small business under 500 employees? What about those of us who are consultants, have an EIN and an LLC, and we don't have any employees or not a small business? You're still a small business. I don't know, you can see whether or not you feel like you can explain what your operating costs are, but your operating costs can't just be paying yourself. So you have to see if you've got operating costs that need to be covered besides your own compensation. I think it's easy to do myself, but that's me. It's a 5-page document with these supplemental, application, little forms you need to. I didn't find anything to be overwhelming. The biggest overwhelming piece of it is really having good current financial data. As long as you've got good current financial data, that's the most of it. I understand correctly. I cannot use this loan to pay a higher interest loan that already exists. I don't think so. I don't think that they ask you for your loan schedule. I think they'd be interested in making sure that you meet your principal and interest payments, but I haven't read anything that says they're going to allow you to wrap that loan in over the top of this. It doesn't mean you can't. As I find out more stuff, I will share it with Thomas as well. Is it due for us? I cannot use this loan to pay interest. Okay. Regina's asking if she said she's created the application under my business name, not my own, and social security number. The application is done under the business name. The application for an SBA identification number is personal. I hope that that's answering your question. How do they take into account cash on hand? Should operate for 3, 6, 12 months. Well, they're not really evaluating that. I mean, you're going to give them profit and loss information, but you're going to determine what you need and how long you think you need to cover. So in the case of the organization I was working with, they currently had enough cash to operate 2 months. And so we looked at, well, let's see if we cover an extra 6 to 12 months, what would we need? And we used that as our rule of thumb for how to determine how much to request. So I would say talk to your financial advisor about what you think is a reasonable amount. Nobody knows. We don't have a crystal ball about how long we're going to be recovering from this. If you don't have 3 years of tax returns, will that disqualify business? It is not it's not what I'm understanding. We've got one that's just in there. They're just starting their 3rd year, and there was no rejection when we indicated there wasn't a previous year. What we did was we filled out the 4506T for the 3 years, and then I wrote notes and indicated that while they formed in 17, they really didn't commence operations till 18. Also looking for a business EIN, yes. Okay, so Amber and Melissa are asking if they're looking for business EIN, tax returns, personal SSN, or both. only the business's tax returns, not the personal tax returns. 11,000 apps submitted nationally. It was 11,000 nationally, not. So that's the number of apps that were submitted nationally as of last Wednesday. It's got to be a great deal more when they started opening up a lot more counties in the last couple of days. From a payment with the IRS, do you not qualify for an SBA loan? I think I'm just guessing about this, if you are involved in a formal payment plan with the IRS, do you still not qualify for an SBA loan? I don't think that that's necessarily the case. If you're keeping up with your payments, I would put that in the notes when you file that application and just say, you know, I'm in a formal arrangement, I haven't missed any payments, and I am not including that in my operating costs or something like that. What do I need to get rejected for a loan? Well, how do you get rejected for a loan at a bank? I guess right now you walk in and see if the bank thinks you're bankable. If you're bankable, then you get money from the bank and you move on, but good luck, you know. And the banks, how are you going to do this? 800 numbers at the banks right now, because you're not going to probably be able to walk into a bank and ask for questions like that. But like, I know Wells Fargo will answer online about commercial lending. And so you just check with your bank and see if you can get a response and tell them what you're doing as well. It's rejection. All right. Do we know nonprofits are eligible? Yes, nonprofits are eligible. Yes, they are. Should we apply now? It's just that when you do a nonprofit application, you'll see a bunch of sections that'll kind of get blurry, and that's because they don't apply. There's no stock. There's certain things that are words that relate just to a for-profit entity, and so it'll say this won't apply to you. All right. So the next one, should we apply even though we haven't been rejected by bank yet? I mean, they're saying that right now the applications will be reviewed within 30 days. So I would say within this 30 days, make sure that you've got your rejection or know that you won't qualify. I have multiple locations. Do I have to complete one? It is not about locations. So this person is asking if multiple locations require more than one loan. This is about the business as a whole. So locations are not separate entities unless they're separate legal entities, in which case each entity would need to apply. If you already have an SBA loan, are you eligible for the disaster loan? You know, it didn't ask any questions about whether you currently have an SBA loan. I would just list it. Hopefully you're in good standing with it. The disaster loan is a different kind of loan that they're offering, not the usual small business startup loan. How soon would payment be due once you get approved? It is not clear. They keep talking about abatements, so I don't know how soon it'll be due. I'm sure that with every day we're getting more information. See, my webpage isn't loading right now, but when I started applying a few days ago, it asked for an individual owner, entity owner. Those requests are part of the application. My business is an LLC owned by 2 people, so you just add sections and you put it in sections to make it work. One of you may be the managing member, so you could identify one as the managing member, but you can also load 2. You can make this form work for you. I'm told they're only asking for 1 year of tax returns at that time. No, they're currently requesting 3 years of tax returns. We are an LLC operating as a partnership. I started the app myself. We had additional partners. By adding additional partners for approval, well, I still would look at managing partner as being the entity that I would include. And now the risk is that, and I'm going to look at the glossary really quickly and see if they're spelling out anything for type of incorporated individuals. Okay, so limited partners aren't directly involved in management, so they wouldn't. So I would look at who in your partnership is involved in management, and if more than one of you is involved in management, I would probably list both. What if we file independently because we are a partnership? Could we still qualify? Well, independently, if you are 2 unrelated entities who are in a partnership, that entity files a partnership return, and so it would be the partnership entity who has its own ID number that would file. There's a dollar limit. The dollar limit is $2 million. That may change. They're talking about giving flexibility to certain situations where they might be able to increase that. How many rejections? 1 rejection from a bank. If we have multiple entities, including real estate LLCs, do we list each one? you have to do an application for each entity. That's 2 million. Are we required to apply for a bank loan first? Sorry, I missed this part. Yes, I think that's the end of those for now, Tom. Woo. Are you coming back, Tom?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I have answered all the questions that we've gotten so far.
Okay.
Oh, I'm up to that.
Right.
Should we be the personal point of contact on this loan, the CEO or an office assistant? I'm going to answer that because I think that's a really important one. It should be the person who can answer questions about this. If the office assistant is able to answer questions, that's fine. But usually it would be a financial officer or a person like I'm on this one as the person that they're going to talk to.
There's one more question just came in.
The bank loan can be applied for as much higher rate. If you get approved by a bank, they're going to say you've got a lending, you've got an ability to borrow money, so you don't need us.
So yeah, so from what I'm understanding too, it doesn't matter what interest rate you're getting approved for from any other entity. If you get approved somewhere else, you cannot apply to the SBA emergency loan.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah. Someone's asking, how does the SBA determine how much a business may receive?
Well, you're supposed to be requesting an amount that covers operating costs. It's really a very subjective thing because I would say you're going to have to look back at what your normal operating costs are, because at this point you might have been shut down for a week, and project and say, here's what I'm thinking, give your rationale. This is an application. So you're giving a rationale for, like the one I was looking at was, we looked at 9 months. So we said 9 months because we figure if things are closed for 6 months, we're still going to have a period of recovery that we need. So to operate for 9 months, get operating money for 9 months along with the 2 that we have should make us whole at the end of the year. So you just have to be, I would err to the conservative so that if they say not that but this, that you can maybe still survive on the amount that they do approve. But I'm not expecting we're going to see tons of rejections on this because it's so subjective. Just make a good argument, explain why you came to that number.
Someone asked what the interest rate is. It is 3.75% for small businesses.
And 2.75 for a nonprofit.
Does the date of rejection from a bank matter?
I don't think so. I mean, it's going to sit for 30 days before they look at your app. Granted, you wouldn't have done it before you went in there, but I guess you could say I already knew this was going to happen, and I can't get into a bank. And as soon as it was possible to get evidence that it was rejected, I did. And that's kind of the arguments I always make with the IRS. So just say I did what was possible.
Is inventory considered operating costs?
No. Well, I was looking at some of the definitions of it, and it said what I need, the supplies that I need to operate. So no, inventory wouldn't be. That's a cost of goods.
Okay.
I had to put my accountant's hand on for a second there.
All right. Okay. Is there a place in the SBA loan application process to upload a rejection from a bank? I believe Carolyn said, no, they're not asking for proof, but you should have it.
But if you feel like you need to, you can. Definitely, there's lots of room. You can upload up to 15 mega. It's a pretty good size amount of documents that you can upload. So if you feel like it will move the process along, I would do what I could to move the process along.
Do you have to apply to bank first? You have to be denied a loan from another entity before you can apply for this emergency funding.
Right, that's the recommendation. I would get started on this document, get on the phone today with your bank, find out whether or not you're going to get approved, and ask them to send you an email to confirm if they said you're not really a candidate.
So if anybody has any other questions, please keep rolling them in. I'm just going to share, there's been a lot of questions around banking, how to get connected to one. If you go to localfirstaz.com/banking, we have over 12 community banks on that page with their contact information, whether you're in Tucson or Flagstaff or Cottonwood or Phoenix, doesn't matter. There's community banks out there that you can connect with. And, we have strong relationships with all of them. Let them know you're a member of Local First. You found out about them from Local First, and they'll extend a hand to try to get you through the process if they can. Another question here. Did you say you recommend getting a FEMA number?
I don't know the answer to that. I did request a FEMA number when I saw it on the application and I got one. And when I went back in to try and get it again, that site was gone. So I don't know what's going on with it, but it said if you have one, it on the application says if you have one. So I'm not getting the impression that you have to have it. That number really applied when you had floods and major disasters in your area. So it may not be applicable to this certain situation right now.
Got it.
I was looking to see if Marisol has a phone number you can call. That's one of the ones I know on your list. And yeah, they've got business. So you can certainly contact them. They've got micro business loans and stuff. And like I said before, there are going to be some banks identified across the country who will operate as bridge lenders that you will be able